Well, my father had been to America as a young man, and he had relatives here in Boston. So America was quite often spoke of in our house. And when I was almost finished nurse's training, my cousin asked me if I would come out here. So I did. We were living on the East Coast. They were living on the East Coast then. And I did. And we came to Seattle on a trip, and we just fell in love with Seattle. So I went home for a while and came back and came to Seattle. Well, a gal put an ad in the paper if anybody wanted to play soccer. Of course, we had been going to games here.
Yeah.
It wasn't, and our kids played soccer.
Oh, okay.
So when I started playing, I sort of had a guilty conscience. I thought my mother wouldn't have fancied that. She was a real Irish rebel. It was the thing to do.
Yeah.
Was to go to the soccer. And this gal, Marcia Siegel, put an ad in the shopping news. If anybody was interested, if they wanted to play, to give her a call. And she got 100 calls.
Wow.
Yeah. And so we met, and our second meeting Mike Ryan was at, it was at the Sherwood Hotel. That was at 45th there.
Yeah.
And we had a room full of people. And we started with 9 teams in 74. And then it was 18, 36, 72, and we were at 156 games in I think it was 81, in about 6 years.
Okay.
Well, they were mostly Capitol Hill, women too, because that's where she put the ad in the Capitol Hill shopping news. We had a couple of meetings, and then we had an election. We made Mike president at that Sherwood meeting because he knew the ropes and knew how to help us. So everybody was a volunteer. And my friend Janet, she did the scheduling for years. She was marvelous at it. She did a lot of things. Well, they were all talented women in one way or another. So some women were great with judicial, others did all the scheduling, you know, and of course it was all by hand then. There weren't computers to do it. It was finding teams for players and finding players for teams. My telephone number was 324-7484. We had to get a second line in because Pat was in a business that he needed to be able to get a phone call if there was one coming in. And my kids thought that our phone number was up on everywhere on every pole you could find because the phone rang all the time. And I threw away books. I couldn't tell you how. I must have placed thousands. Honestly, that's no exaggeration. We loved it. And a couple of the husbands coached us.
Yeah.
Do you remember Jack Goldengay?
Yes.
Well,
I remember his sons. But,
well, Jack was one of our coaches. Jack, he was just a nice old man to us. And he enjoyed soccer. I don't know that he had much to do with the coaching. The younger ones did most of that. But Jack was always there. And then we sold it to the men. They started playing and forming teams, the husbands, because they saw how much fun we were having. We weren't very good. But some of us, now, some were better than others. Some had a natural talent. But, we were just a bunch of women out there having a lot of fun. It was a whole new life, because most of these women hadn't had any sport in college. Now, Janet did. She was in swimming and things like that, but they'd never been on a team sport. And so it was new to them. It started us playing with the number 4 ball.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, we were women. We weren't fit for that big ball. I think we started probably 40 minutes. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But we got to 45 minutes, but we didn't get the ball changed for a couple of years. I think we just, if you could kick it to the next girl. Well, I was playing with a friend of mine, and she was a full back, and her wing was beating her, and did beat her, and scored. And Kay said to me, "What would I have done?" I said, "Trip her." We didn't have too much trouble, and we had to sign up for them for practice too, if we wanted to have the field, because you had to have your permit. If you didn't, the guys would come and say they had first dibs on it. We played on Miller, and we played on Broadway, and then Green Lake sometimes. The refs, I think they thought we were just a bunch of women out there for fun. Some of them enjoyed it too, but they weren't too fussy about. They blew the whistle a lot, and we didn't even know why they were blowing the whistle. We think they should have told us. I know I took to it fairly naturally, because I feel I'm an athlete. If I had been born in the United States, I would have been in track. I think track is wonderful. The first time I went to a track meet, I thought, oh man, that's what I would have been in. I just love that. But and then in my village, we always had a regatta every year, and we ran 3-legged races and 100 yards and all that. And of course, that's a good background for you, because some people have never done that. Well, the first year that we played, we lost every game until our last one. And that was when we played the Gooey Ducks, I think the University of Washington called themselves, if I remember. And Debbie Barlow was on that team. And we beat them. And Mike Ryan, he says, "I don't believe it, but the score shows it." And he was mad. We beat the university team. That was a feather in our cap. That made our season. Didn't matter that we lost all the other games. But after that game, then we went to somebody's house and had a party, and the husband, he took movies of us, and he said we were like a bunch of schoolgirls. He could see that we'd never done this before, and we were just having a ball. Grown-up schoolgirls. Well, they were a good team. I mean, they knew how to pass the ball. And I often wondered what these triangles were. And I say, how come they know that that girl's going to be there? Because they'd pass a ball and there was always somebody there to take it. I can remember at a game in down at Memorial Stadium, and watching, I think it was a team of Mike's and some other team. And it was beautiful to watch when you see really nice soccer. But that amazed me. It took me a long time. I don't know that we ever learned the triangles. All these women almost had to get babysitters. You know, it wasn't that easy to get out to practice and then a game. So a lot of husbands had to learn how to put the kids to bed. But, oh no, we went out and we forgot about everything. Have you ever skied? You know, when you get on the mountain, you just forget. You forget everything. That's what we were like with soccer. We just forgot all our troubles, the little ones. It was marvelous. I was one of the first, Janet and myself were the first women to be inducted into the Washington State Hall of Fame. They named for people, for volunteers. They named
an award
after me. For every country that was coming in, they were having a representative from that country. You had to have been born there. And I said, don't be silly, Mai. But Mai sent hers in. And so I did. I didn't think I had a lot to say, but I sent it in anyway. And Cliff McGrath wrote a recommendation for me. And he did for Mai too. And they picked me because I don't know how many women were from Ireland were in soccer at that time, but it had to be somebody Irish. Now, I think there were about 9 or more people from Ireland, but it was all men who put the resumes in. They picked 23 men and 1 woman, and I was the woman. It was fabulous. If you were picked, you got to go to New York and meet Pelé. And he was to have a lunch, I think, with us, but he was pretty busy. But when we all met at this big, in the Sheraton, I think, and you should have seen those 23 men grabbing Pelé and kissing him. And oh, it was a kick. And then I really got a good kiss afterwards. I was the last one because they were all over him. But he's a wonderful fellow. He's a wonderful guy. And I gave him a doll dressed in Irish clothes. I'll show you her, one like it. And a lady in Seattle made them, but she only made boy dolls. And I said, well, you're going to have to put curls on her because this is for representing women. And she did. And the gal who was with MasterCard, she told me that was the only gift that Pelé brought to his hotel room.
All right.
He brought his Irish doll with him. The university didn't have a
Varsity team.
What do you call it, team?
Varsity.
A varsity team. I always get stuck with that word. And Mike Rude, excuse me.
Mike Rude,
I called him
Mike
Rude.
Too, yeah.
He was the one who said, over my dead body, we'll have women's varsity. And we had meetings. I have more minutes there from meetings, and I'm not an early morning person. And I went to meetings at 8 in the morning down at Rosalini's restaurant, a whole crowd of people trying to get varsity soccer at the university. And then another thing that about the university, when Hedges, and she was there, she refused to let the stadium be counted for World Cup games if we got them. They weren't very helpful. That was very disappointing. We really should have had a lot of games for that World Cup. And we had Governor Booth Gardner, and of course we thought he would do a lot. I don't know how much he did behind the scenes. It was all about the money, and the football brought in the money, so he wasn't going to. He just lived soccer, that's why. It was his his passion in life. And the only thing about Mike that I found, he wanted everybody else to feel that passion, and they didn't. They went to the clinics to know how to kick the ball. They didn't really go for a lecture, and Mike was inclined to want to tell them, you know, how great it was and all that. We helped get him that job. Myself and Janet were at a meeting, you know, for USSF, and they were picking the coach for the national team. And we were there bragging about Mike. Anson was there too, Anson Durrance, because he really wanted it badly too. But they gave it to Mike the first year. Mm-hmm. We feel, in a way, that we were responsible. I mean, we helped obviously get the team at the university, and then I think we had a lot to do with getting a national team. I mean, that first, I think there were 7 women from Washington on that team. And we felt we were so, you know, there weren't a lot of states that had the talent. I mean, we had, well, you know them, some of them were at that meeting that night, and all those girls got that chance to be on that national team. And they were all from here, weren't they? We called them the open teams because they were 17 and up. And oh, they were beautiful, like the Kozar team. Beautiful. The women, I'm just so proud of them. I'm always proud when I see women out there playing soccer. I don't care if they're not too talented. I go watch the over 50s and the over 60s. And I don't know if we have an over 70s too. I'm not sure. But, you know, it's just such fun. And there's such camaraderie. And that's what the women loved. They'd never had that before. That's what you get on a team. You don't get that skiing. You might get it on the ski bus going up skiing. But then it's an individual sport. Whereas soccer is team. They didn't make women's soccer shoes until we were playing years. Yeah, we played with the men. It took a good while for women for it to be worth their while or something to make uniforms for women. I don't know. We went to a sale. I think it was, you know, that lakeside sale or something like that. And we bought uniforms there, and they were all stripes. They were wonderful. We were very colourful, and we got them all for about 50 cents. We got them for about 50 cents each, the uniforms. So women didn't have a lot of money to spend 45 years ago. God, wasn't Denzel great? There were so many times we were down there getting uniforms, because that's where I got the uniforms for the kids after I knew about him. I didn't know about Denzel at first when I was doing the uniforms for St. Joe's. They went to another big store that was, oh, don't remember the name of it, but I took care. I didn't wash the uniforms or anything, but when teams were playing, I gave them out, and then I had to get them back. And you wouldn't believe how many kids on Capitol Hill say, "Hello, Mrs. Noonan. I found a uniform in my room one day, and I thought about you." I had a terrible time getting the uniforms back from them. It was wicked, and of course we needed them because we didn't buy them every year. We started that year, and so mind you, we only had 9 teams, but there was a lot of interest, and they didn't go that first year probably, But a lot of the women went and brought their husbands with them. Yeah. Oh, they wouldn't miss a game. Because we were so new at it and we wanted to see how they played. Well, my favourite was Georgie Best. They named an airport after him. He was one of the best players in the world. I mean, some people say it was Pelé, but I believe the things he could do with the soccer ball were unbelievable. And we went down to see him when the game was over, and he came out the door. I mean, those days you were allowed closer to the players than you are now. And my friend jumped, Tony! He fell back. He didn't know what was going on or what was happening. Yeah, she was from Belfast, and so she was pretty excited to see Geordie, because that's what they called him. Oh, all those women that I love that are out there playing soccer. And when they see my name, they say, oh, I know Bernadette. I love them. I want to thank them for having a wonderful life, because it changed so many women's lives you would not believe. It was fabulous. Well, they had somewhere to go. They had something different to do. They had never had that before, having a team and the fun of going out together and afterwards to going to the pub. And it just, you couldn't imagine how it would change some woman who was married and had a couple of kids, and that was her whole life. You know, some women did work now, even in those days, but to be able to go out and forget all that and get out there and kick a ball, and it was wonderful. I can't imagine not having soccer in my life.